They were the picture of perfection. A pastor loved by his town, a wife admired for her grace, two children who seemed like blessings from heaven. The church called them the model family, but behind the hymns and Sunday smiles, something dark was festering. Whispers of secrets, rumors of betrayal. Until one summer afternoon, when workers dug beneath the church parking lot, and what they pulled from the earth was not treasure, not history, but the tiny body of a newborn wrapped in an old blanket, a secret child buried in silence. And with that discovery, the town's image of holiness shattered, because DNA would reveal the father was Pastor David Marshall, and the mother was Maya Williams, the young church staffer who had vanished without a trace, a case that would expose lies, shake faith, and leave a community asking how could the house of God hide such evil. Please subscribe to our channel. Help us hit 1,000 subscribers. Your support keeps stories like this alive. April 12, 2016, the town of Willow Creek, Indiana, population just under 9,000, was waking up to an ordinary Tuesday morning. Pastor David Marshall, 45, leader of Grace Fellowship Church, was already at his desk by 6:15 a.m., reviewing sermon notes for the coming Sunday. His wife, Elaine, 42, was preparing breakfast in their two-story colonial home. Their two children, Matthew, 14, and Grace, 11, were getting ready for school. To neighbors, they were the perfect family, respected, admired, trusted. David's schedule was predictable. Early morning prayers, community visits, counseling sessions, Bible study. He was a man of order and discipline. That evening, the church office staff noted the absence of Maya Williams, 24, a bright young administrative assistant. Dependable, always punctual, Maya had been with Grace Fellowship for just over 2 years. Cheerful, devoted, her desk was neatly arranged, her handbag still on the chair, but she never showed up to finish her tasks. By 8:30 p.m., her mother, Patricia Williams, placed a missing persons report. Maya's phone went straight to voicemail. Her car, a silver 2008 Toyota Corolla, was later discovered parked at the far end of the church's gravel lot, keys still in the ignition, purse inside, but no sign of Maya. That April evening would mark the last time anyone in Willow Creek saw Maya Williams alive. The disappearance of Maya Williams was first logged into the Willow Creek Police Department system at 9:14 p.m. on April 12, 2016. Her mother, Patricia, told officers her daughter never missed calls, never stayed out without notice. Officers dispatched a patrol unit to Grace Fellowship Church, where Maya's car had been spotted. The silver 2008 Toyota Corolla sat at the far corner of the gravel lot. Doors unlocked, keys dangling from the ignition, her handbag and wallet placed neatly on the passenger seat. No forced entry, no struggle. Police photographed the vehicle, dusted for prints, and noted the unusual detail that the driver's seat had been pushed far back, suggesting someone taller than Maya had last driven. Search teams canvassed the area, dogs brought in. The scent trail circled around the church building but abruptly ended near the south side parking lot. Initial reports categorized Maya as a possible voluntary missing adult. Given her age and lack of immediate evidence of foul play, Pastor David Marshall led a prayer vigil that same night, standing at the pulpit assuring the congregation that God would bring Maya home safely. His wife Elaine stood silently beside him, her hands clasped tightly, eyes fixed on the floor. Neighbors whispered that Maya had been close to the pastor, though none dared speak it aloud. For now, the official record listed her status as missing, a young woman who had seemingly vanished into thin air. For weeks, the disappearance of Maya Williams lingered like a shadow over Willow Creek. The church bulletin still printed her name. Her photograph hung near the entrance doors with the words, "Have you seen me?" Beneath it, at first the congregation came together in prayer circles, vigils held in the parking lot, candles flickering in the spring air. Pastor David Marshall delivered impassioned sermons about faith in dark times, urging patience and trust in God's timing. Local media covered the story briefly. Young woman missing. Last seen near church, but with no new leads, interest faded. Detectives had no crime scene, no body, no signs of struggle, and slowly the case was pushed into the background. By late May, the police classified Maya's file as inactive, citing lack of evidence. They noted she was an adult, legally free to leave on her own. Some even whispered she might have gone away willingly, perhaps to start over. Patricia Williams, Maya's mother, rejected that entirely. She made daily trips to the police station, begging for updates, insisting Maya was not the type to run. She left behind everything: car, money, phone, even the necklace she wore every day. A small silver cross given by her late father, Patricia, appeared on local television, her voice breaking, saying, "My daughter didn't just vanish, someone knows. Something." The church tried to move on. Services continued. Choir sang as usual. But there was an unease that never left the sanctuary. Elaine Marshall, the pastor's wife, seemed thinner, more withdrawn, no longer smiled at the congregation, often excused herself early from gatherings. Women in the church noticed her trembling hands and red eyes. She told her sister privately, "Things aren't right. David isn't who they think he is." But her sister dismissed it as stress, telling her to hold her marriage together. By July, the case was considered cold, files locked in cabinets at the Willow Creek PD. Only Patricia continued the search. She handed out flyers in nearby towns, walked along highways scanning ditches, organized volunteer searches in wooded areas. She even hired a private investigator with money raised from a GoFundMe campaign. He traced Maya's last cell phone pings, triangulated to within 200 yards of the church. Then abruptly dead, suggesting the phone was powered off. He pressed the police to subpoena church security footage, but by then most recordings had been erased under routine storage policy. The little that remained showed Maya entering the church office the day she vanished, and nothing more. 2 years passed, anniversaries came and went. Patricia marked each April with fresh pleas. Each time fewer reporters showed up, whispers spread in Willow Creek. Some said Maya had been having an affair with a married man. Others hinted she left town in shame. And some, in hushed tones, suggested the pastor himself knew more than he claimed. But without proof, the rumors floated like smoke. Then came August 2018, a stiflingly hot summer. The church council approved expansion of the parking lot to accommodate the growing congregation. Construction crews arrived with heavy machinery, digging up the far side near the south lot. On the morning of August 14th, a backhoe operator struck something unusual just 3 feet beneath the soil. The bucket tore into plastic, then cloth. When workers climbed down to clear the debris, they froze. Inside the bundle lay the tiny remains of a newborn infant, wrapped in a faded blue blanket. The site supervisor immediately halted work. Police were called to secure the area. Word spread quickly through town. By noon, parishioners gathered behind yellow tape, many weeping, unable to reconcile the horror of a baby buried beneath their house of worship. The coroner's office arrived, carefully removing the remains. Forensic pathologists later confirmed the infant was less than a week old at death. The wrapping suggested deliberate concealment. DNA samples were rushed for testing. While speculation ran wild, Patricia Williams stood at the scene clutching Maya's photo, whispering, "This is connected to her. I know it." Weeks later, the results returned. DNA confirmed the infant's father was Pastor David Marshall. The mother was Maya Williams, the missing staffer who had vanished over 2 years earlier. The town erupted in disbelief. Sunday services stopped immediately. Reporters swarmed Willow Creek. Satellite trucks lined the main road. Headlines screamed, "Pastor's secret baby found buried beneath church." The discovery reignited Maya's case. Detectives reopened every file, subpoenaed phone records, interviewed former staff, combed through old emails. What had been considered a cold case was suddenly the most explosive investigation Willow Creek had ever seen. And with each layer peeled back, a darker picture began to emerge, one that would shatter the illusion of the perfect pastor and expose the sins buried beneath his church. The forensic team at the Marion County Coroner's Office took custody of the infant remains on August 14, 2018. The body cataloged under case number MC18-2417. A full postmortem was performed by Dr. Linda Carver, lead medical examiner. Despite advanced decomposition, the body showed no signs of congenital defects, no fractures, no trauma consistent with an accident. The umbilical cord had been crudely severed, tied off with what appeared to be a torn strip of cloth. Tissue samples were extracted for toxicology, but due to the state of decay, results were inconclusive. The cause of death was ruled undetermined, but the manner strongly suggested homicide by neglect or intentional suffocation. The detail that stunned investigators was the DNA. Swabs taken from bone marrow and preserved tissue were processed at the Indiana State Police Forensic Laboratory in Indianapolis. Results delivered on September 3, 2018, matched the father to Pastor David Marshall with a probability of paternity greater than 99.999%. Mitochondrial DNA identified the mother as Maya Williams, confirming Patricia's long suspicion the missing woman had carried the pastor's child, a secret pregnancy concealed from the congregation and the public. The case immediately shifted from a missing person inquiry to a homicide investigation. Detectives now had biological proof linking Maya and David. Investigators pulled David's phone records from early 2016, cross-checking with Maya's. Dozens of late-night calls between the two appeared in February and March of that year, abruptly ending the week she vanished. Cell tower pings placed both phones within a 200-yard radius of the church office on the night of April 12, 2016, after 8:45 p.m. Maya's phone went dark permanently. David's phone remained active, but curiously, between 9:15 and 11 p.m., no outgoing or incoming data appeared, an unusual gap given his normally busy text history. Experts later suggested the phone may have been placed in airplane mode to avoid tower triangulation. Detectives subpoenaed church security footage archives, though most had been automatically erased. A backup hard drive recovered from the IT manager contained partial clips. One from April 12 showed Maya entering the church office at 7:42 p.m. She carried a folder and her handbag. A grainy shadow of another figure is seen following her into the hallway minutes later, the image too blurred to positively identify. By 8:17 p.m., the office lights shut off. Maya never reappears on camera. At 8:21 p.m., a man believed to be David is seen exiting the side door carrying what looks like a duffel bag, loading it into his vehicle, a black 2012 Ford Expedition. He drove away at 8:23 p.m. and did not return until nearly 10 p.m. Further breakthroughs came from Maya's digital footprint. Detectives retrieved her old Gmail account via warrant, finding draft messages never sent. One written April 10, 2016 read, "If anything happens to me, please know it was David. I am scared. He says I will ruin his family and the church if I tell. I don't know what to do." Another unfinished draft read simply, "He said the baby can't exist." The most chilling evidence was a voicemail left on her best friend's phone but saved on carrier servers, time-stamped April 12, 2016, at 8:09 p.m. Maya's voice, hushed, trembling. "He's here. I don't know what to say. Please, if you don't hear from me, tell my mom. He'll kill me if anyone finds out." The call cut off mid-sentence. Investigators confirmed the cell tower ping placed her inside the church building at the time. Taken together, the forensic chain, the infant DNA, the cell records, the draft emails, the voicemail, built a compelling picture. Maya had been pregnant with the pastor's child. She intended to reveal the truth, and within hours of her disappearance, both she and the newborn were silenced. Detectives now faced a grim realization. The respected leader of Grace Fellowship was no longer just a spiritual guide. He was their prime suspect in a double crime: the murder of Maya Williams and the burial of his own child beneath the church he claimed to serve. Elaine Marshall had lived for years behind the polished image of a pastor's wife, but by the time investigators uncovered the infant's DNA link to her husband, the cracks in her silence were impossible to hide. She admitted to detectives that she had long suspected an affair. She recalled nights when David would vanish from their bed under the excuse of late church work, whispers from choir girls that made her uneasy, the way Maya's name lingered too often in his sermons. Elaine confessed she had once confronted him, his response cold and threatening. If you ever speak against me, you'll destroy this family, and God will hold you responsible. When Maya disappeared, Elaine said she knew in her heart David was involved. But fear kept her bound, fear for her children, fear of the congregation that worshipped her husband. She told investigators he made her rehearse answers in case police questioned her, warning that a good wife protects her husband's calling. In time, Elaine's silence became part of the investigation. Prosecutors suggested complicity, but to those who looked closer, she was a woman trapped, carrying knowledge that could topple a church and a marriage, until the discovery of the secret baby forced her to make a choice between loyalty and truth. The arrest came like a thunderclap on a chilly October morning when police cruisers rolled quietly into the church parking lot. Just as Sunday service was about to begin, parishioners watched in stunned silence as Pastor David Marshall, still in his black robe and collar, was led away in handcuffs. The man they had trusted with their weddings, baptisms, and funerals, now accused of murder, concealment, and betrayal of the very faith he preached. The footage of his arrest spread quickly, church members weeping on camera, some shouting prayers, others spitting words of anger. Inside the county courthouse, the case drew national attention. The holy man with a hidden child trial became a media storm. Reporters lined the steps. True crime networks dissected every detail. The prosecution built their case brick by brick, introducing Maya's hidden voicemails, DNA proof of the infant, financial records showing hush payments, and testimony from friends who said Maya was terrified of the pastor in the weeks before she vanished. The most damning evidence came from Elaine herself, the wife who broke years of silence on the stand, her voice shaking as she recounted how David forced her to hide what she knew, how he threatened her if she ever exposed the affair. The defense tried to paint Maya as unstable, even suggesting she staged her disappearance. But the journal discovered in her apartment, filled with entries of threats, fear, and plans to leave, became the nail in the coffin. Day after day, the jury listened to stories of manipulation cloaked in scripture, control disguised as spiritual authority. When closing arguments came, the prosecutor's words hung heavy. He preached salvation on Sundays and buried his sins beneath the very ground his people prayed on. After weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated less than 2 days before returning with the verdict. Guilty on all counts, the church gasped. Some wept, some walked out. The man once praised as God's servant, now branded as a murderer, the illusion of holiness shattered forever. The verdict was final. Pastor David Marshall, once the shining symbol of faith and family, was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The courtroom sat in stunned silence as the judge declared him guilty of murder, concealment, and abuse of trust. Elaine sat with tears streaming down her face. Not from love, but from years of fear finally lifted. Maya's family clutched one another, their cries echoing through the hall. Outside the courthouse, cameras captured the chaos of a town forever changed. The church doors were locked, the sign that once read House of Hope, now covered in spray paint reading House of Lies. The aftermath left the community asking hard questions. How could so many ignore the red flags? How could one man manipulate faith to hide his darkness? And most importantly, how many other secrets remain buried when silence is chosen over truth? The lesson is chilling. Evil does not always wear the face of a stranger. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, behind pulpits, uniforms, or even smiling neighbors. Awareness is survival. Speak when something feels wrong. Protect the vulnerable. And never let fear silence justice. Maya's story is a reminder that silence can bury truth, but truth will always rise. Thank you for watching, and if you believe stories like this must continue to be told, make sure to subscribe to Viral Crime Stories, where every voice matters, every story is remembered, and justice is never forgotten.